The other day I was watching some of my older videos and I noticed there have been lots of changes in the shop since those videos were filmed. And I thought we'd just take a quick look around the shop and see what some of those changes might look like today. So here we are in the main part of the shop. So just to give you a little bit of a reference point, I have a camera sitting over on the hydraulic press, which is over on that side of the shop over here. And I'm going to leave it there for most of this video so you can orient yourself, and I'll try to cut back and forth between this camera and that camera over there so you can get an idea of where I'm actually at in the shop. But let's go back out to the door we came in, and we'll start out in that more open area of the shop and see what's out there. Of course, this opening will eventually get a door put in it. It just hasn't happened yet. One of the many things that needs to be done with this shop. As we come into the shop though, right here next to where the door will go is my Edwards shear. And it's here so long stock can be run clear out of the shop, and there'll be a separate door here just to allow for long stock. And of course my chop saw is also here and will also allow for longer stock to come in the shop, or run through the saw I should say. In keeping with the saw theory, here is the Marvel bandsaw, Marvel number 8 saw. In any big stock prep, that's where I cut that. If I'm cutting a whole bunch of something, this is really a good production saw for cutting things. It's an old saw. I don't know how old it is, but it's far from new. Out here are then also where my belt grinders are. This great big 3x132 belt grinder, as well as my two 2x72 belt grinders. I have a buffer over there in the corner and a wire wheel over on this bench, along with a dental lathe, which is essentially a grinder that will take burrs very similar to what you would put in a die grinder. And then this is the door back to the shop. So now we can orient ourselves to this door with the little camera over there on the hydraulic press, and hopefully this all makes a little bit of sense. I think I'll just go around in clockwise fashion. So we're going to start here with the porta bandsaw on a stand. I've changed this. I used to just put it on the bench, but now we have it on a little stand with a foot switch down there. Makes it handy. I'm down to one drill press. I sold the one I was having trouble with. Wasn't using it, so I didn't see any reason to keep it. And then I have this long bench with a couple of machinist vices I rarely use. This is where I store most of the files that I use. This window, of course, goes out to that other room as opposed to going outside. It used to be outside, but since I built that other addition, now it's just a window into there, and it just lets a little light pass through from one area to the other. I have a toolbox that mostly holds taps, dies, things like that, and other associated tools, die handles, things of that sort. And we'll come take a look at that back room a little bit later, save it for a separate thing. These bins are mostly full of rivets. There's a few other useful tidbits and oddball items in there, but mostly they're rivets of various sizes and diameters. And then this workbench is where we do most of our discussions during the videos. Has a little toolbox under there, just a simple Craftsman toolbox that has squares, pins, pencils, things of that sort in there. And of course it has a post vise on the corner, and I use that vise way more often than I use either of the machinist vices on this bench. I have a 110 kilogram 2-horn anvil over here that I mostly just use for center punching and layout work, things of that sort. I don't do much forging on it, but every now and then I bring something over here if I need that second horn. Continuing around the shop, we have the fly press. It's a number 6 fly press from Old World Anvils, and it's on a stand that is bolted to the floor. And underneath the the press a whole bunch of different dies and tooling for the fly press. Not very well organized. It's something else I need to work on. And under this bit, the same bench, the other side of that same bench where we sit and have our discussions when we're doing the videos, we have another little tool chest with odds and ends, and then that wooden box has a bunch of other fly press tools in it. That's the better organized bunch of it. Some treadle hammer tools on the wall over here. In between the fly press and what else? The treadle hammer. And that's a Clay Spencer style inline treadle hammer based on his plans that are available through Abana. And this is one of the new things. This addition back here that's got a tarp for a doorway right now was built just to house the Samac power hammer. And we've seen this in quite a few videos. And that's a new piece of equipment. It's been in the shop for about 1 year now and has been a real workhorse. And I hang my apron over here, my Forge Aprons apron from April, hanging on a hook that was sent to me by James at County Line Forge. Then back here in this other part of that addition where the Samac hammer sits are some tool racks. I've moved my cone mandrel back here. I don't use it real often, but it's easy to move back out into the main part of the shop if I need it. And of course the Little Giant power hammer with plenty of room to do any of the kind of work I've ever done under the Little Giant. So it's still a very well used piece of equipment in the shop. Now this is one of the changes people have noticed. This is the hydraulic press. It was over here originally. It moved when the power hammer came in, and we just recently put it back over here because it seems more useful over here in this corner. Plus it's going to be in the way of another piece of equipment, and I'll explain that when I get to where the hydraulic press used to sit. Next to the hydraulic press then is the tool cabinet with handles supplied by you folks, the viewers. Thank you for all the handles. They've been really nice to have on there instead of the store-bought ones. Along this entire wall there is a tool rack for hardy tools, tongs, hammers, all sorts of things. My post vise that I use most of the time for forging, it's right here by the forge. Another tool chest, and this is all just torch accessories, or mostly torch accessories. There's a few other things in there. And they sit here next to the gas savers, one for propane, one for acetylene. And then that is close to where my gas bottles and my incoming propane line are. So I've got propane coming in from a big tank out in the yard, and that way I never have to change propane bottles, only the oxygen bottle. And I rarely use acetylene now, but it still gets used if I'm doing some welding. I think I'll step back into the forge here, and we'll finish the forging area, which of course includes the forges. And right now I have the chili forge set up on top of the coal forge. I use a gas forge 90% of the time. That's because from my location I feel like propane is the most economical fuel source. Coal is getting harder and harder to find. And then for the type of work I do, I feel like a gas forge is more efficient and I get more work done. So it's really a cost-saving item all the way around. If you can get more work done for any given amount of fuel use, you're money ahead. But it sits on top of the coal forge, and I should say solid fuel forge because you could also burn coke or charcoal in there. And of course I'm standing right next to the anvil here. So let me back up again so you can see how the power hammer, anvil, forges, and post vise all relate in about a 5 foot by 8 foot rectangle there. And the hydraulic press as well. So all that stuff is just real accessible, real easy to get to. Little Giant's just barely out of the picture. And the treadle hammer and the fly press are also close enough that you can get hot material to them. That is my slack tub, or my Mankey tank as some people were calling it. And I have a big swedge block with a couple of little swedge blocks that are currently sitting there, but again that space is going to have something new move into it. Usually they sit right back over here in front of this tool shelf, which I kind of like it not there, but there's not too many places to actually put it, so it's going to probably go back there instead of here. I mentioned a few times that something else has to go in this spot, and that will be the ribbon burner forge. It's going to be big enough. It's not going to be something I want to pick up and move around the shop. It'll have to be on a cart, so it has to have clear floor space, and that's probably going to be the best place to put it, which of course will leave the coal forge available to use a little bit more often, so we might see the coal forge more once the ribbon burner's in. And as we come around here, we have a post drill on the wall that I don't actually use. It works, but I don't use it. Then a wood stove that really helps heat the shop in the winter. And that completes the forging area. But if we go back where we were earlier, hope this isn't too confusing. As we go past the coal forge, there's the other door of the shop. There's a side door over here, as well as what should be the front door. I don't use it much. That big open area is just easier to come in that way, so that's what I do. Then here's my Paragon heat treating oven. The toaster oven that I use for tempering sits on top of it. And I have an older Paragon furnace down below that I don't hardly use now. Next to that is my big welding bench. This is a 4x8 bench. And this bench is really a little bit too big for being up against a wall. It'd be nice to walk around it, but my shop just doesn't have room to walk around a bench like that. So currently it just sits up against the wall. I'm thinking about trimming a little bit off the backside, but we'll talk about that if it ever actually happens. Sitting in the back corner of the bench is my Lincoln LN25 wire feeder. It runs off an engine-driven Lincoln 250 welder, and it works okay, but it's not the best system. A nice modern welder would be nice. I have a Beverly shear that I use from time to time, and we've seen that in a few videos. On this end there are a couple of Whitney punches, and those are really handy. You don't have to drill holes, you can just punch holes. The stuff that's on this cart is what will become the ribbon burner forge, and of course that will then move and be over there where the swedge blocks are once I get the ribbon burner done. My lathe, I don't use the lathe much. I'm not a machinist, but there are times that a lathe is really handy to have. And in this corner there's a set of lockers for spare things that I want to keep clean, extra gloves, rags, things like that, and a little bench grinder for sharpening drill bits. So that is pretty much the entire shop. Let's take a look in that little back room, but if you want a better explanation of what's going on back there, check out the video I did on my other channel, Off Topic with John Switzer. I'll link to it right up here, and it'll explain that back room just a little bit better, I hope. Now this little space back here will eventually be sort of an office space, and it is being built based on the Earthship style of building, even though it's not technically an Earthship, which uses things like recycled pop cans, bottles, adobe, or just mud as we call it around here. And the base is primarily made of rammed earth tires. And these tires all have about 300 pounds of dirt each sledgehammered into them until they are very tight and well packed. And that makes really a pretty solid structure. But I'm not going to get real into that here. This is just a shop tour. So if you're curious what's going on back here, that's it. Out here in the yard area is where I have most of my material stored. I have this open rack, which even though it's out in the weather isn't really a big deal. Nothing stays on there long enough to get too rusty, and I've never had a piece of material damaged because it sat out in the weather too much. I then have lots of buckets of stuff that might be useful for the hook of the week or some other projects. And this is a terrible way to store materials. These do fill up with water, even though most of them have had holes drilled in them. They plug up and they get water and snow in them. And this stuff does rust worse. And I'm planning on getting it in under cover, hopefully this year, but it may not happen till spring at this point. And one of the things that should really help get that stuff in under cover are these shipping containers that are behind me. One of those is taking a lot of storage of stuff that was piling up in the shop and was in the way, or stuff that was in this other little shed that's across from the shop. And this is a disaster area. I've started moving stuff out and stuff is kind of scattered all over the place. So try not to pay attention to the lack of housekeeping. It just is what it is. This is also where my tumbler lives, so I don't have to listen to it quite so much in the shop when I'm tumbling parts. I don't use that a lot. There's only a few things I use it for, but it's really handy when you do need it. But these shelves were always kind of a mess, and mice nested in it and squirrels got in it and who knows what else lived in this little building. So all of this stuff is going to go in the shipping container. And then I'm hoping all of that extra material will go in here, and all my tool steel assortment, everything like that I hope can come in here where it's undercover and it's going to last a little bit longer. But the long bars that get used up in fairly short order, I think will still live on that outside rack. So that's pretty much it for a look around Black Bear Forge. This is the shop and the outbuildings and the storage containers. And I know sometimes it doesn't look like much, but it is a surprisingly functional shop. And I really kind of like it. I like the funkiness, I like the quirkiness, I like the fact that it has mismatched rusted siding on the outside of the building. It all just sets the right mood for me to work in the shop, which is not modern industrial. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button. Feel free to stick around, watch a few of the other videos, share the videos with your friends, but then by all means, make time in your day to get out to your shop, make something, but stay safe, wear your safety glasses, and we'll see you for the next one.